Hi, I'm Robert Joseph, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about bobbins and threading your machine. And these videos are all about the Brother Sewing Machine LX3817. So I'm doing a complete overview, and then we're getting into the stitches. We're going to do samples for all the stitches and learn all about this machine. And that's what these videos are for. But in this section, I'm going to talk about bobbins and threading. So the original videos I shot as all one long video, but it was too long, so I split it up into smaller sections, and I'm sure that makes you happy. So bobbins, getting into the bobbins. So these are bobbins, these little plastic things. Some are plastic, some are metal, but the bobbin is very unique to your machine. So you'll need to look in your manual. If you're not using this machine, you're using another brand, you'll need to look in the manual to find out what bobbin class and the size you will need to purchase for your machine. And my suggestion is always to take a bobbin with you to the fabric store or wherever you buy your bobbins, so that you can match it up exactly with the size and the kind. And I go through, I show, once we start and you'll have the top view of the machine. That's how I kind of start the video. So because originally I had segued right into the top, but now since I've split it up, I needed to do little mini intros for each section. So those are the bobbins, and then of course your choice of thread. So you should know that in the beginning of the video I use this dark green color, and that goes through to the bobbin. But I actually switch out the color of the bobbin to this pink color so you can see it better. And then I also switch the thread color to this red so you can have a better view of the actual threading. So just don't worry in the beginning if you see the dark green and you can't see it very well. The only thing I really do with the dark green is I wind that bobbin, and I walk you through that complete process. So now that I've got the introduction out of the way and you know what I'm going to be talking about, let's get to winding the bobbin. Okay, so we're ready to wind a bobbin, and the bobbin is very important because the bobbin has the thread. This is the bobbin, and the bobbin has the thread that goes underneath on the bottom of the fabric. So you have two threads basically in the sewing. You have a top thread and you have a bottom thread, and the top thread gets inserted down into the needle plate and it picks up the bobbin thread, and that's what locks the stitch for your seam. So for most Brother machines, I don't want to say all, they all use pretty much the same bobbin size. So bobbins are usually not interchangeable between brands. They may look similar, but they are not similar. So when you go to the fabric store or any store to buy more bobbins, they're all going to look the same. Some will be metal, some will be smaller, some will be different looking. But these bobbins are very specific. So in your manual, and I'm hoping that it is focusing. So on page 13 of this manual, it has this diagram, this information about the bobbins, okay? So they are part code SA156, okay? Now there are a couple of different bobbins with this part code. So SA156 and class 15. Now when you go to the store, which I have done before, I have bought class 15, but they were the wrong size. So there are two different sizes within this class. So the ones that you want, if you look here, is 11.5 millimeters wide. That's between the top and the bottom of the bobbin, or it's 7/16 of an inch. So my suggestion is when you go to buy new bobbins, take one of your bobbins with you and match it up to the ones that are in the package. You see how this is different? I believe this is actual size, okay? So you need to be purchasing the correct bobbin. If it comes with a plastic bobbin, more than likely you cannot use a metal bobbin. And likewise, if it comes with a metal bobbin, you cannot use a plastic bobbin. Okay, so just be very careful because you can damage your machine if you're using the wrong bobbin. And of course, it's not going to sew correctly. It's not going to give you a good seam if you have the wrong bobbin type in your machine. Okay, now there's a much more lengthy video about bobbins and stuff on my Apparel Arts Academy playlist. So look in level 0 and look for the bobbins. I can't remember if it's bobbins and needles or bobbins and thread. Anyway, there's a longer explanation about bobbins in there. Okay, so we are going to wind this bobbin, get it full of thread so that we can actually do some sewing. So you cannot sew without your bobbin thread. So from the previous video, remember there, I want to put my thread up here. So this post here is depressed and we want to like just hold on to this and pull it up so that we can put the thread on. I'm going to use this green thread. So I'm just basically finding the middle post and putting the thread in there. And then make sure that when your thread comes off, that it comes off really easily, that there's nothing holding the thread back. Okay. So, whoops, I lost my bobbin. So I'm going to set the bobbin down here, set the bobbin aside, because I'm going to actually thread this now so that I can put a bobbin in here to wind it. Okay? Okay, so the thread comes off here of the spool of thread, and I need it to go into this thread carrier. So I'm basically going to take the thread and put it in here, and I'm going to pull it, and you will see, let me see if I can take this off. I'm going to take the camera off of the tripod and make sure that it will focus. Okay, so it's going in here, and there is a spring in there right here. It's not really going to catch into anything. It doesn't really matter. You just need to make sure that the thread is in that carrier. And then we're going to take this thread, and you see there's actually a picture, where's my finger, right here that shows you how to actually thread this. So thread in there, and then I'm going to wrap the thread around there. And of course I don't have a third hand, so what I'm going to do, put the thread there, and I'm going to hold that on that side because I want it to pull the thread underneath. You see how I slide it underneath that little disc? I think I'm getting a little too close, it won't focus. So the thread is going underneath that disc, and then I'm going to just pull it around. So now it makes this little, where's my finger, this little X looking bit to come back around. Okay, so I'm going to put the camera back up on the tripod. And focus. Okay. So the thread is coming off here. Now it's very important that this thread is in underneath this disc. Okay, so if it's just going on the outside, you know, you should feel some tension that it's underneath here. Okay, because we want really good tension when we wind a bobbin. So now I'm going to find my bobbin. Where did I put my bobbin? I'm bringing this bobbin in here, and you see this little hole here. We want to put the thread into going toward the center post, and we're going to put it through that little hole. So I've got my snips. I need to snip off and have a good point. So where is that little hole? Whoops, let me make sure it's in the camera. The little hole. Put that thread up. Wait, so you couldn't see that because the light was bad. So there's the little hole, and I'm threading the thread through that hole so it comes up the top. Just kind of grab onto that, and now it's up there. Can you see that now in the light? The thread is in the middle, going in the middle of the bobbin and through that hole. I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to move the bobbin over here, and I'm going to put the bobbin down onto the post. It'll click in there. I'm still holding this thread, and then I'm going to take the bobbin. Let's see if I can move the camera just a little bit. I'm going to take this bobbin, and I'm going to use a little muscle, and I'm going to push this to the right until you hear that click, and it clicks against this post here. Okay, now we're ready to wind our bobbin. So that means that we are going to install the plug down here that I showed you before. So pull out the plug and the foot pedal, and I will show you where we're going to plug that in next. Okay, so we are ready to plug in the foot pedal to the machine that gives it power. Okay, so you see these two grooves. There are two grooves here on this, and inside there are three. Whoops, you can't see that. There are three holes here. So the two grooves, if you can see, match the two grooves that are here, and these holes line up with the three prongs that are inside. So all you need to do is line those up, and then probably hold onto the machine, back here somewhere, and then just push that in until it stops, and there you go. And then we can plug the machine into an outlet, and I have a grounded, let me just lift up the camera here a little bit. So I have a grounded plug here. So we can actually just plug it into our power source. Okay, so basically we're all set up and ready to sew. Okay, so I've taken the camera off of the tripod, so we are plugged in. The pedal is plugged into the machine, and it's plugged into a power source, and it's off. So the circle means it's off, and then when we flip it up to the bar, that means it's on. I'm going to keep it off for right now. And then I'm just going to show you, so the foot pedal, which is now on the floor, you can get that to focus. So this is how you're going to operate the sewing machine. So you will press it down, you will press this lever down, you hear it clicking, and that is what makes the sewing machine go. So you press it down, and we're going to do that to actually get the bobbin to go. Okay, so I'm probably going to hold the camera in the hand so that I can go between the presser foot, even though it's not focusing, to the bobbin. All right, so I'm just get the sewing machine into position so I can do that. Okay, so we're ready to start the bobbin. So we've got our thread here, which we're going to hold on to. Our bobbin is pressed against the post here. We've got our power plug in. It's plugged into the outlet, and then we have our presser foot down on the floor. So the first things first, we need power. So I'm going to flip this on. So that's on, and actually, if you can see, there is a light under here. So when you turn it on, the light under here will come on. So we're going to actually start to wind this bobbin. So the best way to do that is this thread, you're going to hold it. If you hold it up perpendicular to the bobbin is best, and you want to really hold on to it tight. You don't want that thread to go anywhere. And then you're going to press the presser foot, and the bobbin will start winding. Now, a little note about bobbin winding before I start. You want to wind as fast as you can, because you want to make sure that while it's going through this tension here, that it gets really good tension. And the only way to get really good tension is to wind your bobbin as fast as you can. Okay, so I'm going to hold this thread up, and I'm going to hit the presser foot, and you hear it going. Now when it gets to this point, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop it. And this is going to be hard for me to hold the camera at the same time, but I want to come and I want to clip this thread off, just like that, because I don't need that anymore. I don't want it getting caught in anything. And then I will resume the bobbin winding. Okay. Now the bobbin will slow down Okay, so I had to stop because I didn't have my mic hooked into my collar. It was just kind of sitting, it was on my phone, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood what was happening was that I am pressing the presser foot, the pedal down here, and I'm pressing it all the way down to the floor, getting the bobbin to wind as fast as it can because we need that good tension. So I'm going to continue that. I clipped the thread off. I stopped a little bit and I clipped the thread off that was coming out here, because we don't want it to get tangled up in the other threads here. And so I'm going to continue on, and it's going to start slowing down on its own. And once it finally slows down and stop, you can lift up from the pedal, let go from the pedal, okay? So let's finish this, and it will slow down. Starting to slow up a little bit. Okay, it's slowing down now. You see that? Now let go of the presser foot. We're done with the pedal. I keep saying presser foot, but this is the foot pedal. We are done here. So what we can do is take this, hold on to it, and pull it back to the left. And then I can clip the thread off and pull the bobbin off. And now it's ready to be installed in the machine. Okay, so we're ready to install the bobbin that we just wound. And this clear cover here, let's take this off. So if you need, I usually come up here, press down, and then toward your body. So just kind of press down, hold on to it, and then pull it toward you, and it will come right off. So don't lose that, okay? So here is our bobbin. And one thing about bobbin insertion is that you see how it's coming, the bobbin is like this and the thread is coming off on the left side. That's the way you want to put the bobbin in. And this is a drop-in, easy drop-in bobbin. So you want it coming off like this, and basically just drop it in like that. And you want to make sure that the thread is coming off this side. Now, there is a hook here, and if I have my pointer, I'm going to try to see and make sure that you can see where it is. Whoops, I got all caught up here. So here, there's a little hook right here. And this is where you need to pass the thread under it, and the thread will almost fall right in there. I should have used a brighter color, huh? Anyway, let's see if I have a red thread. Okay, so I found a different colored bobbin so we can see what we're doing. So I found pink, so that should be okay. So again, the thread comes off the left side, and then basically you just drop it in there. And there is a hook right here, and you can kind of see this part here. It'll start to slant down, and then here it's just kind of a little bit of a hook. And this arrow here, that's what this arrow here, it kind of hook it in there, and then you're going to pull the thread up this way. And you see this circle, this little indentation here. Well, you can pull the thread around here, and there's a cutter here, and it will cut the thread off for you automatically. So basically what you're going to do is take the thread and make sure it gets hooked in this little part and pull it, and it will automatically seat in there. And then pull this up, and then you put your finger or something here, it will go into this little groove here, come back around, and then just tug on that until it cuts right off. And that, folks, is how you install your bobbin. Okay, and then we're going to push our cover back over and push it in till it snaps. And now our bobbin is ready to sew. Also, I want to point out right next to the bobbin here are pictures right here if you forget how you put your bobbin in. Okay, so don't ever remove this sticker. This might help you out someday if you forget, okay, aside from your manual. Okay, so there is our bobbin. So now we're going to move on to actually threading the upper threads. Okay, so we're ready to thread the machine, and we actually still have the previous thread in here from when we wound the bobbin. And I'm actually going to replace the thread because I thought red would be, you would be able to see that better. So I'm going to take this thread off, and then I'm going to put this thread right there. And again, make sure that it comes off smoothly. So the beginning of this is actually the same as for the bobbin. However, we're not going to be putting it in this disc right here. All we need to do is pass the thread underneath and through this area here. And then here is a slot. We need to put that thread through here. So now on the machine, if you look closely, there are some guides here, 1, and then here it will say 2, and then down lower is 3. And I'm gonna change the camera so you can see the front of the machine, see where I'm going. So again, the thread is coming off. We need to go under and just pass through this carrier here, and then we're going to lay the thread in this groove right here, okay? And now I'm going to switch the camera to the front view of the sewing machine. Okay, so now we're at the front of the machine, and remember I passed the thread through this long groove, and make sure there's a number 3 here, there's a 2 here, and there's a number 3 here. And once I get this all threaded before we into the needle, I'll go back through so we can walk back through it. So here, what we're going to do is keep that in the groove, and we're going to take that up and around. Now, when you take this up and around, don't put it through here, the outside. You want to make sure that it goes behind this dial and then up, because that's going to set it inside tension discs. And I'll get a close-up on this in just a second, because I don't want to leave this thread here, because we've got to take this thread up back into this this long shaft here, and then there's a metal piece in here, which is a hook. We want to, and there's a diagram up here, we want to take this thread, let's see if I can tilt this up a little bit, okay. Take this thread and pull it all the way to the back. You see my hand taking it, bringing it all the way to the back, and then over to the left, and following along this edge, hugging that edge all the way back down. And in here, you want to make sure that it's in that hook, okay? And I'm going to take the camera out of the tripod, and I'm going to take this over so you can actually see it in there. You can see where that thread is. I can get the light going in there. Can you see that a little bit better? The light is in there, okay? So you can see that there's that little hook in there that's called your take-up lever. You need to make sure that your thread is in that take-up lever, okay? So now I'm going to put the camera back on the tripod, and we're going to continue to... Okay, so I've got my thread coming out here. Maybe I should pull back just a little so you can remind you of where the thread was coming out from up to the top. And now we need to insert into the needle, but our needle is buried down here, so we need to bring it up. So how do we do that? So I'm going to have to remove the camera from the tripod again, because we're going to use the hand wheel on the right side to bring the needle back up. So I'm going to do that really quickly, hopefully. It'll be quickly. So take this out, and again. So this is the hand wheel, and just really quickly, whoops, I'm covering the light. There's this line here. So when this line matches up the center here at this little indentation here, that means that the needle is all the way up. So what I'm going to do, holding the camera, I'm going to turn the wheel toward me, and I'm going to look for on the top for where that's coming back around. There it is. So I'm going to line up that line just like that with the crease in the machine. So now I know that my needle is all the way in the top position, the right position to thread. Okay, so this part is always kind of hard to see. So where's my pointer? Right here. Okay, so without hitting the camera or anything, I just kind of want to show you. So this piece here, there's this light arrowy kind of, this point here kind of juts out. So we need to insert the thread into this little catch here, this carrier, so that the thread follows the needle down here. So a lot of times it's easier to use both hands, and I'm going to hopefully not hit the camera. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab part of the thread with my left hand, and with my right hand, just kind of, do you see how I did that? Oops. Oh, sorry. I have the thread in my right hand, my left hand here, and then I'm just kind of sliding the thread in between where that carry is all the way to the back, and then I can pull it back out to the front. One thing to be careful of is make sure that this thread doesn't get hooked around the back of the needle and then come out the front. So make sure it only goes through here and comes out the front. So now we can actually thread the needle, and the eye of the needle, I know it's hard for you to see, is right here. Okay, so get your snips, your scissors, and make sure that you have a sharp edge on your thread, which I'm going to do right now. This is always a challenge for me, to actually thread the eye of that needle. Let's see if I can, right there. As soon as you feel it go into the eye, okay, see it's coming out the back here. I'm gonna reach up there, grab that thread, pull it out. Make sure that the thread does not get tangled. Sorry, I'm moving the camera. Make sure that the thread does not get tangled or wrapped around that needle. I'm going to take this thread, and then there's a groove in the presser foot here. Take the thread and put it in that groove and pull it out to the side. Okay. So we're not quite there yet and ready to sew yet. There's one more thing that we need to do. And the thing we need to do is actually pull that bobbin thread up from the bottom. So to make it a little bit easier to see, I'm going to put the presser foot down. Remember the little lever under here? Where do we see this lever here? We're going to put that lever down. Okay, so I put the presser foot down. You can see it's down all the way flat. I'm holding on to this thread because I don't want it to actually escape through there. So I'm going to go and I'm going to use my hand wheel on the right, just like I did to get the needle up, and I'm going to turn it toward me. I'm going to move the needle down, go all the way around, one complete revolution. Make sure you get that line on the hand wheel lined up with the center line on the body of the machine. And you can kind of see there was some work going on down here where the thread came across. Okay, and now if you see here, once I come back up to the spot that I need to be on the hand wheel, you see my bobbin thread has popped up here. That's a good sign. So now I'm gonna raise my, my presser foot, and it's a short thread, and I'm gonna try to grab that thread, if you have tweezers, and pull that thread out, okay? So now I have both. So I need the bobbin thread, and that here is the pink. I'm glad I changed colors. And then the top thread here is my red. And I'm gonna make sure both of those are underneath the presser foot, which is this piece here. And I'm gonna make sure that these are, 5 to 6 inches long, all right? And now we have our machine completely threaded, and we're ready to sew. Okay, so the machine is all set up and it's ready to sew. As of August 2022, this machine is $85 at Walmart, which is a pretty good deal. So I'm going to put some fabric in here. Just a little note to that, always sew with at least 2 layers of fabric, unless your fabric is actually pretty thick and heavy. And the reason for that is because sometimes the lighter weight fabrics don't like to sew by themselves very well unless you're doubling it over. And especially I don't want you to kind of get messed up when you first use this machine, okay? So I've got everything threaded in here. I'm going to switch out so you can see up close here. I'm gonna have 2 layers, and I'm just gonna do a basic stitch. That's all I'm gonna do. Okay, so I'm ready to sew. I just have some muslin, 2 layers of white. This is bleached muslin. So I'm gonna get this under here, under the presser foot, between the presser foot and the bottom of the machine, and I'll go over what this stuff is called in the next video. So get this under here a little bit. Don't start right here, because what happens is that the needle will push the fabric down into that hole, and we don't want to do that. So I'm pushing it all the way back so it's back at the back. So I'm going to, let me see the shadows, put my presser foot down. Remember the arm back here, and I'll talk more about that in the next video. So what I like to do, once I get it to this point, I'm going to use my hand wheel on the right, turn it toward me, and put that needle down into the fabric. That's called burying the needle. And I have my machine set at, is it at number 8? So number 8 on my dial. And now I am just going to, I'm not going to hold, I'm just going to lightly touch the fabric, because if I hold the fabric, it's not going to go anywhere. So just lightly, and then I'm going to press the pedal that's on the floor. I got to turn the machine on first. So there's the light, and then gently press the foot on the floor, and you can hear the machine warming up. And it's going to sew. I'm going to stop. You see the needle is down. I've got to use my wheel. I'm going to turn it all the way so my needle comes all the way up to the top. And remember, the mark on the wheel on the right lines up with the seam on the sewing machine. Lift that presser foot, and then I can pull this right out. And I'm going to clip my threads. And let's have a look at that stitch. So that's pretty good. That's a nice stitch on that side. Let's see if we can focus. And then on the underside, that looks good as well. So it looks like we did everything correctly, and now we're actually ready to do some practice sewing. Okay, so you learned the basics of this machine, the stitches that it has, about the reverse lever. We haven't done a lot of reverse stitching yet, but we will get there. I told you about the threading of the machine and winding a bobbin, inserting the needle, and then once we got that done, we actually just ran a test stitch, which actually came out pretty good. So that is actually the end of this part of the section of these videos. So again, this is just a user awareness for the brother model LX3817. In the next video, we're going to start exploring the stitches on the dial here. Again, these are not videos that will teach you to sew. These videos will teach you about this machine and using this machine. If you want to learn to sew, you want to check out my videos in the Apparel Arts Academy playlist. Those videos, again, are free. I go into detail about threads, bobbins, different machines, all the tools you need to have to sew. That's in level 0. Level 1 is beginning sewing. We do simple seams, simple stitches, and the basic railroad zipper. And then level 2, we get into more complicated seam types and different stitching and other things like that. Those levels are all free to you. The patterns, if you want to purchase the patterns, I'll put a link down in the description, but you can get those on my sewItLikeAman.com site and look in the Apparel Arts Academy section. Those patterns are $5 for the entire kit for level 1, and then in level 2, they're $5 a piece. So those sewing exercises are actually what I used to teach at the college level. So if you're really interested in going to a fashion school or really learning to sew, doing fashion sewing, those samples are really important for you to learn. So they're just different sewing techniques. So later on, we'll get into more complicated garments. So these videos, however, will not teach you to sew. They will teach you to sew with this sewing machine. I think this is a terrific machine. My mind was changed about this machine just recently, and so I thought I would just take a deep dive into this machine and explain to you why my mind was changed and why I think it's a great starter machine for a young person, middle school, teenager, as well as a college student going into fashion school, or even if you're not in fashion school but you would like a machine to take with you to the dorm. This is pretty small, and the weight is actually not that bad, but it's a great machine to have at only $85. So there you go. So that's the end of this tutorial for this machine. I will see you in the next video when we start exploring some of these stitches. Thank you again for watching. Please subscribe. It helps my channel out. And hit the notification bell. Every time I put a new video up with one of these machines, you'll get a notification that I've uploaded a new video. And thank you for watching. And as always, be well.